Hi everybody. Hello. Thank you so much for coming today. Sorry we're starting a bit late. We know there's been lots of problems with traffic and weather and lots of people's journeys have been a bit chaotic this morning, so hence the late start. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Marie. I'm one of the directors at London Bubble. And it's my pleasure to welcome so many colleagues, old faces and new faces, to a real life event today. It's really nice to see such a full room. Thank you. Today's going to be interactive, it's going to be informative, and hopefully you're going to enjoy yourself. We're going to share with you the context, the practice, and the impact of our Creating Justice project. The report that we're here to celebrate today is in your goodie bags, and one of our researchers will be explaining more about the key findings later on. We've got a range of guest speakers. There's going to be some practical stuff. There's going to be a little bit of film. There's going to be a little bit of theatre. And there's going to be lots of opportunities to talk. But today, this is an important occasion for us. It's a chance for us at London Bubble Theatre to spotlight a piece of work, our work with Youth Offending Services, which has been a key part of our Young People's programme for 8 years now. But projects that often go under the radar and often get, because of the nature and of the young people we work with, work that we don't often get to share. So it's really special for us to be here today and with so many people to know what we're doing. And we want to share our learning from the last 8 years. And this funding, the Challenge London funding from A New Direction, has enabled us to commission an extensive report into the impact of the work, and so that we can share that for the benefit of our peers and colleagues in the cultural and youth justice sectors. So that more young people can benefit from partnerships like it and ways of working. So we really hope we can start a conversation today about how this work is happening across London and even further. Anybody here from outside London? Across London. Okay. So before we get into talking too much, we'd like to share a short film. Now, for all the practitioners in the room, you will have been through the same experience as us in the last 2 years about how to continue the work in a pandemic. So this research has happened remotely for the most part. We've just got started when the pandemic started, and the work had to be transferred online. So for those of you working with young people in the criminal justice sector, you might have also come across some resistance to working online. And we started to run sessions on Zoom, and we discovered that no young people would turn their cameras on. So we ran this project 3 times during lockdown without ever seeing the faces of the young people we worked with. But we did find that actually they spoke more because of the anonymity that provided. The challenge for us was to create a piece of art that way. And we're just going to share a short film that was made with a very small group of young people over Zoom, just so you get an idea of the practice before we go into more detail. Thanks, Matt.
Could you take a walk with Charlie in fresh new whites? Life ain't always floating on air. Sometimes it packs a punch with force. Dad waiting for him to man up, tick. A boy without a mum's hug, check. Your ride and die ain't always got your best, mate. So just leaves him one.
Charlie, eat the bickies again.
Yeah, I had a few.
I told you, if you want bickies, yeah, you need to go out and get a job. I'm sick and tired of you doing nothing in this house, yeah?
But what do you mean I do nothing? I go to college.
No, I don't want to hear your excuses. You know what? I've had enough. You know, call your mum, pack your stuff. She's going to come and get you, yeah?
How is that an excuse? I go to college, and how can I call mum anyway? Bruv, you know I can't call mum.
You know what? You need to man up. You need to man up and do something with yourself, yeah? All these new trainers. Where you getting the money for the trainers from?
But don't worry where I'm getting money for the trainers. About man up. You man up. That's why I'm buying my own trainers, look after myself, because you can't do that. Gee.
Dad, I hate you, but I'm never going to be like you. Why are you always angry? Are you going through something mentally? Like, what's your hatred towards me? I'm your son. Did you never want me? Did you ever love me? Or was I just a mistake? I ate your biscuits and rage. You care more about the biscuits than me. Instead of love, you gave us scars, me and mum. Now our family's broken. 3 empty tins filled with no love. So I mean it when I say, Dad, I hate you. I'm never gonna be like you.
Well, you can't stay here. You're going to have to sort that out.
Nah, you need to come and get your son. I've had enough. Yesterday he called the police on me, you know. I've had enough. Come and get him.
What did you do to him? I've said this a million times and I'm not going to say it again. He can't stay here. He lives with you. And I'm getting really fed up of you calling me like this as well.
Don't worry about what happened, innit? Just come and get him. I've had enough. You need to take care of your son, innit? It's your responsibility too. It's because you got that little man over now. What's the problem?
His name is Paul, not a little man. Tell Charlie I'll take him for a Nando's on Friday.
No, you can come and take him for Nando's now. Take him for Nando's for the rest of the week, all I care, yeah? His bags are packed, and I'm going to go work. When I come back, I don't expect to see him, the bags, or you, to be honest.
It's all your fault. Why did you leave me? Why do you never call me? Where's my money? Where's my mummy? Why do you let Dad treat you so badly? Is it my fault? Do you love me? Have you ever loved me?
What's going on, bro? How you been?
Boys, I'm feeling good today, you know. You don't even know what just landed.
What happened? What landed?
Fam, man got my little thing. Wait, hold on. Come, let me show you. Look at this new knife that I've got, fam. 17 inches, fam.
Whoa, put that away, bruv. Don't be taking it out like that.
Fam, man's good, fam. This is my area, this is my part.
Yeah, alright, but whoa, don't go too close with me, innit? That's all I'm saying.
Fam, don't worry, fam. I'm not gonna joke you.
Evening, gentlemen. Hello, hi. I'm going to have to stop you. You're looking a little bit suspicious. Can I ask you where you're going, guys?
Talk about suspicious, fam. How can I look suspicious in my park?
I've just seen you coming out of the bushes. You were showing your friend something in that bag. Could you empty the contents of the bag, please? I've got reason to believe you're carrying an offensive weapon.
I don't have no weapons on me. I don't know what you're talking about.
We can do this the easy way or we can do this
you
the
bring
hard
your
way.
best here for me, Charlie. You bring
What
your
are you talking
uncle
about?
here.
Whoa.
John, is it?
No.
John William.
Nope.
John, let's not mess around. We both know who you are. There's an offensive weapon in this bag. Can you tell me how you got it, please?
Hey, it's not mine, it's Charlie's.
What are you talking? No, whoa, don't do that.
John,
It's not the first time, is it, John?
what are you
So I'm
talking
afraid-
about, fam? I don't know what a knife is.
I'm afraid you're leaving me with no choice
Hey, Charlie, fam,
but
what
to
you
arrest
doing?
you.
Get back here, Charlie. Hey, Charlie.
If you'd like to come this way, watch your head on the car, please. Sergeant, I've got John Williams, again, arrested for possession of a bladed article in West Park.
John, mate, you're always bringing in knives, aren't you?
No comment.
Well, I'm just gonna have to send you to cell 4, mate. Go and take him down.
But what do you mean cell 4, fam? It's all cold in there, fam. You can't do that.
Well, mate, you shouldn't have carried the knife then, should you?
Nah, you better bring a blanket in, or I'm not going in, lad.
Well, mate, if you don't go in, I'm just gonna have to drag you in the cell.
Fam, you can't drag me nowhere. Do you know who I am, fam?
Mate, just go to your cell. Make it a lot easier for everyone.
Nah, fam, I'll put you in your cell, fam. I'm not even meant to be here, fam. My name's
Mate,
Charlie,
don't
fam.
make
I'm not meant to be
call
here,
back up,
fam.
mate. Don't make me have to call back up, mate, because we will take you to your cell no matter what.
Try me.
Right, I'm gonna need 3 officers down in cell block B.
Nah, fam, I'm not having it, fam. Get off of me, fam. Allow me, man. What did I do, fam? Allow me. What the hell?
Look, John, mate, we can make it so much easier if you just went to your cell.
Name's Charlie.
Your name ain't Charlie, mate. I know Charlie.
What?
Yo, my brother, fam. Hey, man, just chat to Charlie Sloth, fam. You can
still talking about you, yeah?
That let me up. Yeah, fam, that set me up the other day, fam.
Bro, your
Hey.
voice when you were chatting to him, you know what I mean?
Hey, bro, basically, it's going down today. He's gonna be in the park, 10 minutes, be there with the man them ready.
I'll send out a call, man.
I knew you was a little dickhead, bruv. You little punk, man. Come here, wait for this, innit? What you saying now, innit? What you saying now, innit? Call the feds, innit? Call the feds, innit? You're bad, man, innit? You're on it, bruv. See, I knew you was on it, innit? What? Get him down, pin it down, innit? What? What you saying now?
Morning, everyone. If you could all come sit down, take your seats. Charlie, everything okay?
Yeah.
What's that on your face, Charlie? Look at me.
Leave it, miss. Just leave it.
Can you just come forward outside for a minute, please?
Yeah? I'm outside now. What's up?
Well, I can see your face. You've got black eye, Charlie.
Yeah, I just said leave it, miss. I just said that when I was in the classroom, right?
I'm worried for your safety, Charlie. I think I need to call your mum.
Well, if that's a success, please tell me about that, because
What does that mean?
nothing.
Who did this to you?
I was walking home, and some boys just were chatting rubbish. They chased me, they took my bag, and that was it. It's all right, don't worry about it.
I'm going to have to write a report. Can you come to the office with me, please?
Charlie is angry. Charlie is confused. Charlie is baffled. Charlie is scared. Charlie is in need of love. Charlie hates dad. Charlie don't see mum. Charlie and friends don't see eye to eye. It's Charlie alone.
Thank you. I should have probably said beforehand that the faces that you do see are bubble practitioners, not young people who are involved. And part of the practice, which I will talk more about when we get to that section, is that often the young people shape the drama, they write the script, they tell us the words, they direct the practitioners who are more confident to perform it, and eventually kind of we start to do it together. But yeah, the people who you saw are staff. So we think our relationship with Southwark Youth Funding Service is unique. We've been embedded there for 8 years now, as I mentioned. We deliver 7 projects a year, and we're really proud that they've been welcomed as a regular feature within their service, and that they repeatedly commission us. And the person who's going to tell you a little bit more about why they do that and the context in which they've decided to work with us and welcome creative projects is Jenny Brennan. So Jenny's going to come and speak now.
Right, just watch I don't kick that over, okay? Thank you very much for inviting me. This is a culmination of such a lot of hard work from so many people over a number of years. And as you can tell from my voice, this just reminds me what it feels like sometimes when young people get asked to do something that they're not totally comfortable with. So get into this is out of my comfort zone, and go with it. So always good to be reminded of what we're asking our young people to do, but also our practitioners. The good news. The latest annual youth justice statistics released about a month ago told us that over the last 10 years, there's been an 82% decrease in the number of children cautioned or sentenced at court. Over the last 10 years, there's been an 81% decrease in the number of first-time entrants into our system. Knives and weapon offences are down by 14%. The number of children in custody has fallen to its lowest level ever. There's 540 children in custody now, and reoffending rates continue to fall. This is a notable and commendable effort and impact of the different agencies that work with within the youth justice system. And nowadays we're calling it a youth justice system rather than just a youth offending service. We've had developments to decriminalise young people through diversion schemes and a child-first approach that recognises the impact of trauma. But in Southwark, we know there is so much more to do. We know that disproportionality exists for our children of black and dual heritage. We see young people hurting each other, being in fear for their lives, and committing serious offences. And knife carrying continues to devastate lives, not only in the families involved, but in our community. Our own reoffending rate was being 50% until the impact of lockdown. And we're grateful for COVID in some ways, and we're down to, I think, 36% is the latest data. We know that that sort of reoffending rate is not acceptable, so we continually need to think of how we can do more to engage those young people. There's a smaller number of young people in that reoffending cohort, and for us, it's less than 100 now. So we know those young people have complex lives, and I think, as you've seen from the film, there's so much that impacts on young people and how we have to work with them. So we need to continuously evolve in our ways of working with them in order to impact on issues that they've experienced in their 12 or 15 years before they walk through our door. A few hands up. Who's from a youth justice, youth offending service? Have I got some familiar? I know some of our lot. We have some in the audience. They'll be well aware of how tough it is to make changes, and we have to ensure we work with the wider system of school, police, family and friends. The work of a YOS officer has to be a balance. We need to engage the young person, their family, the wider system, as well as the core role of enforcing the requirements of the court order for a young person who's been sentenced in court. We have to make sure they attend sessions and engage in offence-focused work. They have to engage in reparation, restorative work that makes amends and aims to reduce their likelihood of offending in the future. Alongside this, the YOS officers have a duty to protect the public whilst remembering they're working with a child, and we need to safeguard that child as well. So why would Youth Offending Service in Southwark decide to work with a theatre company? Why? What prompted us to think that 2013, 14 probably, when we've got all that serious business to focus on in terms of public protection and court orders. I was saying to somebody I was sitting next to in the chat, you don't often get a magistrate saying as part of the YRI youth rehabilitation order that a young person has to engage with a theatre company. It's not usually something on that menu of activities that's considered by the system to work. But engagement with art, creative arts, underpins our work with children at Southwark Youth Offending Service and with their parents increasingly. So going back to 10 years ago, we looked at the evidence base. We looked at what's at the time asset, and we have these assessments we have to do in youth offending before the days of Asset Plus, and we could see what factors young people experienced when they came into our system. And the overwhelming risk area and the factors that we needed to address most was thinking and behaviour. How do you address an adolescent's thinking and behaviour? Alongside that was lifestyle. How do you address their lifestyle? Their attitude to offending that they've developed over the last 12 to 15 years, and their motivation to change. This will be just common, views of all youth offending service here, anybody that's involved in youth justice. But we also knew that education, training, and employment was a key route out of offending, what we call our resistance factors. And we knew that our young people were not prepared for that. Some of the programmes that create CVs are not that useful when you haven't got anything to put on your CV. They're not that useful if you can't engage in a conversation. What I call the typical adolescent grunting, but not wanting to criticise young people for our inability to engage with them and thinking they're hard to reach. So this was a time in youth justice when we started to talk about adverse childhood experiences, the impact of trauma, and increasingly recognise the importance of communication skills and communication needs. We started to learn within youth offending youth justice that 60-70% of our young people that came through the door had speech, language and communication needs. So our usual model of talking, sitting down, we'd probably branched out into cartooning, drawing, using some physical activities. We needed to change how we engaged with young people and make sure it wasn't from our perspective, but things that engage with them. So our initial conversations with Bubble focused on using drama to engage with young people and prepare them for work and the interview process. And we started delivering those groups back in 2013. As you will see, and from the report, which is amazing and really useful in terms of providing our evidence base, it's evolved into a committed partnership, encompassing an embedded programme and widening out to work with children about to start secondary school So alongside the way into work, we have creative voices and playing safe. Back in those early years, our plans to include creative approaches at the YOS highlighted the outcomes for young people that we were focusing on. Nothing new, really. Improved communication, better relationships, increased motivation. These are our stepping stones to achieve change for young people within the Youth Offending Service and youth justice. So whilst we are confident of the skills and expertise of Bobble, we need to remember that our staff also need to be encouraged to see the benefits of this approach. Reflecting back to how scary it can be sometimes to engage in anything that's called drama, we had to look at what we called it. It isn't drama, as some of the labels we used at the start. And I'm sure YOS colleagues will know that it's great to have evidence-based programs. We've all had to deliver a knife crime prevention program. It's part of what we do. But getting people within the YOS to refer young people is quite difficult. It's not cost-effective to have programs that you don't get maximum turnout for. So it requires an ongoing commitment to promote that creativity with our own staff team. And we've had Bobble down to work with us and make sure that we are prepared to take the risks and engage in activities that young people also are being asked to engage in. So we need to promote that creativity, demystify and show the benefits. The presentation that happens for YOS staff, managers and board members at the end of every Creative Voices programme is just so important. So we watch things like the film, it gets circulated, but we turn up in the room to what is often, it becomes an installation in our office. The things that they can do with a room that you use for parenting groups is amazing. We've had things hanging from the ceiling, all sorts of props suddenly emerge and create a theatre, a presentation where we experience and hear the voices of our children at the Youth Offending Service. And it does help us remember that they are children and they have got stories to tell. Even if we think, I've heard this a bit before, I've heard how important it is for us to consider the impact of parents. We know the impacts of parents splitting up. We know the impact of drugs. We know the temptations of material gain when young people can earn £500, things like that, very easily, rather than going through some of our processes. So how you deliver this within the Youth Offending Service needs to engage with the staff, with the management board, as well as providing an evidence base so that we can challenge some of the criticisms that we have maybe from other parts of the system that say this isn't part of what a YOS order should involve. Those soft skills, developing communication needs, getting young people motivated, creating better relationships with staff and with an organisation, because our staff join with the sessions, MIFTA and Youth colleagues join that to model some good practice, but it becomes embedded in the service, and this is how we do our work. Our YOS officers work extremely hard to engage young people and steer them away from what can sometimes feel a road to custody. They have a passion for working with adolescents, not everybody does, and a strong desire that young people achieve their potential. We need to see the creative arts as a way of supporting youth justice services in building those blocks to achieve change, and do that with young people. One top tip to remember if anybody's trying to embed this new approach is, and it comes from a previous yacht manager of mine, remember those that are still in the changing room. Some of us may be ready to dive into the water, go ahead with something. Some of us may be treading water for 7 years, waiting for other people to catch on. It's the people in the changing room that we need to convince. They need that motivation to think, actually, let me give this a chance. Let me do something a little bit different. And I'll leave you with that.
So we're gonna do an exercise now together, like we would do in a workshop. Rather than talk about it, we'll just do it. Rashini, can I have the drinks? So when we arrive for Creative Voices, that's one of the projects Jenny just spoke about. We have 5 sessions with a group of young people with a performance of some kind to be shared in the 5th session. And most of the young people in the room are telling us they don't do drama, they don't want to be there, or if they're saying anything at all. So we spent a long time developing how we might make our first steps not feel like drama. So one of our favourite exercises is the trainers. So I'm presenting to you now this pair of trainers, and I'm just going to ask you to have a look at them, and I'm just going to ask you to imagine who they might belong to. And anybody can shout out a fact at any time. This person's going to need a name, they're going to need an age, they're going to need somewhere to live, they're going to need things they do in their life, they're going to need a personality. So anybody can add, you can just shout it out. The only rule is if someone over here says they're tall, someone over here can't say they're short. Okay? So we go with what's gone before. So, if anybody's feeling brave, shout something out. Give us a trait. Yeah, your hands going up. Okay. Okay. These belong to a tall person because the trains are big. They're tall. They're 5'10". Nah. Male. 17.
Love chicken and chips.
Okay.
Going to college.
Okay.
Supports Arsenal.
What else do we know about them?
Take pride in their appearance.
Okay. Yeah. What might the rest of the outfit be?
Jeans. Black. Hoodie.
They have long hair. Okay. What's our relationship like?
Could be better. But still protected.
How's it going?
He's cheated on her.
Okay, and now we see the story starting to develop. So in this situation, we might start to then think about what we bring to life, and we might ask some of the team. So we usually go with 3 or 4 practitioners from Bubble, and one of them might be me, but everybody else is probably closer to people in the room in terms of age and background. And we might start to play out some of those scenarios. So we might look at we haven't got a name yet, what's the name? Jerome. Yeah, we might start to look at what Jerome's relationship with Felicia is like. We might start to improvise how he finds out about, or whether Felicia finds out about the cheating. We might ask the question, what's going on with him and his brother? Why could the relationship be better? We might get a couple of acts and have a look at that.
Jenny and I were just chatting, we were saying we sat in the offices at A New Direction at the beginning of this process trying to get the money together. And getting the money together is a big part of what arts practitioners do now. Because of that, and because we live in austerity times, and we've lived in austerity times for a really long time now, when I left school to mass unemployment. Nothing happened for my generation for 2 to 3 years. And actually, I saw progress. I saw things get better. And I've seen over the last number of years that be eaten back. And those austerity times come hitting hard and fast. So we spend a lot of time trying to get money to do this work. And the temptation is to say, what we do is great. It's fantastic. It changes everything. It makes everything better. And of course, that isn't true. It just isn't true. But that's where we get placed. We get put in that position because we're trying to get the money. And we're trying to fight for money, which other people are trying to fight for too. And we're trying to get that money in for the young people that we're talking about here. So why did I then want to drive towards getting an evidence base together? Because actually, that made me feel like it wasn't good for my soul to be saying that. It wasn't good for my soul to be saying, everything we do is great. Everything that we do makes it better. It wasn't true. I knew it wasn't true. And I knew sometimes we messed up, and sometimes we did things well, and sometimes we did things a bit better. But what I do know about the arts is it connects people, it builds communication, it builds creativity, it builds social interaction. It gives the person themselves an opportunity to be their best self. So if they're going to be their best self and I need to get that money in, then I need to build some kind of evidence. But I don't believe in proving things. I don't believe that you can prove that doing this drama stops somebody re-offending. I actually don't necessarily think that doing this drama is going to stop somebody re-offending. What I think it might do is it might make them feel a little bit better about themselves. It might mean they make one other connection that's a positive one. It might mean that when something happens that they could go down, they might think, well, I could do that. So they might just, another opportunity might appear. And I think those things are important. I think we build evidence base to improve what we do, to make it better, not to prove. And there is a kind of a body of work around calling it evidence-rich practice as opposed to evidence-informed or even evidence practice. No, it's evidence-rich. The work we do is rich in evidence, and we're constantly trying to improve our understanding of what we do. I want to say a really big thank you to Sophie and Ellie who did this piece of research, because I've worked with a lot of researchers now, and they did this piece of research. We had it already just before the pandemic hit, and they've still produced this amazing piece of work that tells us lots about what we do. It doesn't prove what we do is the best thing, but it tells us a lot about what we do. And they did that by being flexible, adaptable, and really working with what we had. So thank you very much for that. I'll tell you why I think it's evidence to improve, not to prove. Because if I say to you, 76% of 106 people said, you just think, oh, this is rubbish, man. And I heard that on the TV last night. It was about some hair product. 76% of 100 people said this thing was better than some other thing. That's like, so much evidence is that. But if we really go, how can we make what we do better? How can we better understand what we're doing? How can we better understand the role of our interventions in the complex lives of our participants? Then we can make a difference. If we can use the way we gather evidence to get different people to talk to each other, different professionals, get them to listen to the young people in a different way, to get them to understand each other's perspective in a better way, then gathering the evidence itself, the process of doing that, is important and is good. If by looking at things in an evidence way, we can start to understand what it is we're doing in the drama that makes the difference, rather than just going, oh yeah, drama makes a difference, right? Everybody's going to be more confident after doing drama. That's rubbish. I've been in drama sessions myself as an experienced person who went 3 years of drama school and does this stuff all the time, where my confidence has been like, I'm not going to do that because I didn't feel safe in that session. So drama itself is not the thing that makes the difference. It's the way we interact with people. It's the way we build the connections. And so if the evidence helps us to understand that better, great. And also, let's have a look at the situation we're working in. We're working with drama practitioners, we're working with young drama practitioners, we're working with YOS staff. YOS staff didn't go to drama school for 3 years and practice standing up here talking. They did something else, right? And we know, and what we've discovered from the evidence is our work is better if we work with those YOS staff. So then we have to start thinking, how are we going to prepare to do this work in a way that is good for everybody? And it's really great to hear YOS staff talking about how important this program is and the difference it makes. Because actually they spend more time with the young people than we do, and they're the ones who are really making the difference. So really I think the evidence is about improving. So I asked Marie, so my question was, if we're going to do this work and really think about what we do and how we do it and how we can make it better, we also have to think about, what doesn't the work do? So I have an evidence base around another program I run, which is about young children's communication. And through gathering all the evidence, one of the things we discovered is that people were referring children to the program because they thought it would improve their speech production. And actually what we discovered is it had no impact on their speech production at all. It made a big impact on their confidence to communicate, their willingness to communicate. The great thing about doing a piece of evidence and finding that out is now I can say to people, don't refer children to improve their speech production, because you need to do something else about that. Don't waste your time doing that here. So we need to know what we don't do as much as what we do, and we need to know how we do it. So one of the things I asked Marie was, from doing this piece of work, what did you learn? Because actually doing a piece of work is fine, but what did you learn? And so Marie talked about what the research did was it reaffirmed her belief in the importance of positive relationships. And that's what we see through the research. When you read the research, you'll see it's the relationship. The things we do, yeah, we can do loads of different things in drama, but we need to do them with a positive relationship. So it reaffirmed that. Now, reaffirming it is important because the environment we're in, I'm sorry, doesn't value that. I don't believe it values that, the overall environment we're in. I don't believe we're in a society at the moment that thinks the most important thing is us having positive relationships. So having that reaffirmed in our work helps us, because it helps us when we go in there on the day-to-day basis to say, actually, this is important. I know it's important because it's in a report. Marie said she learned from the report, and it reminded her that keeping the project structure flexible and adaptable for different groups was important. That, yeah, we go in with an idea of how we're going to work, but when we meet those young people, when we find out how they're working, we need to adapt and change. Right? So keep it flexible. She was reaffirmed for her that we have to have shared aims with our partners. We can't just go in and do this stuff. We have to talk to each other and say, what are we trying to do? How does my values and your values connect? How do we bring those values that we have, share them, and work with our young people with those shared aims and values? That's really important. The thing that I've been hearing through and Marie said, and I might rephrase it slightly, I hope you don't mind, we hear a lot of talk about youth voice. Youth voice this, we want youth voice here, we want to hear the youth here, we want to hear the youth here, we want to hear the youth here. Okay, youth voice, okay, that's all right, okay, I'm going to go with that. Much, 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 much more important is the adult ear. What is the point speaking if no one's listening to you? Right? And what we're hearing here is when we ask young people, who are these trainers? If the young person says these trainers belong to, Mickey, who's 5 foot, if we don't hear that and we make a character who's, 6 foot and called Jerome, then we've got a problem because the young people have it reaffirmed that the adults are not listening to them. So the most important thing that we discover in this work is that it's the adult ear which will encourage the youth voice. We always work on the youth voice, right? People always want to work on the youth voice bit. No, first of all, work on the adult ear. Listen to what the young people are going to be saying. And sometimes they're going to be saying things you don't want to hear, and sometimes they're going to be saying things that you are definitely going to want to challenge. But if you don't give them a space to say it, how do you know you need to challenge that? So those are the things that Marie learned from this. So for that, what it reaffirmed, what it made important, this is a great piece of work. Thank you so much for it. I also said, what did you think you're not going to do anymore? Didn't like this. The style diagrams are too difficult an evaluation tool. Right? Okay, simple thing, it takes up too much time. Okay, so that's great. So we learned that. Okay. And that we've got this grandiose theory of change. So it's a great big theory of change. Actually, we need to really drill down on that. It really needs tightening. Because the other thing about all research is we don't know. We can't say a young person having this outcome is to do with what we do. Because young people's lives are complex. All of our lives are complex. And there isn't a single journey to success. There isn't a single journey to outcome. Multiple things happen. We might have a session where, example, yesterday I was working with some children, and one of the children was really difficult to work with yesterday, and he's been going really well with me. Right? We've been having really great progress. Talking afterwards, because I always work with a member of the school staff when I'm working in that way, I found out some things that have been going on for that young person. Okay, so actually what that young person did that day, even staying in the room, was a great success. But, that's not down to me. That's down to all the other things that are happening in that young person's life. So let's remember that as well. For me, I'm promoting constantly an arts environment, an arts culture, where we look at evidence and we build an evidence base for the arts. So I know I'm not predominantly talking to an arts community here, The arts have always tried to build this evidence, but what hasn't happened is people listening to the evidence that we've built as the arts sector. And we'd say, oh, the arts haven't done it. No, the arts have been doing it. We've always been doing it. But we need to find better ways of sharing it and putting in spaces like this where we share that research. What I want to ask you, and I'm going to give you some post-it notes, you have just a couple of minutes to do this. What's important is finding out better about what we do. So that means you, as the professionals, have to be curious. Now, in whatever work you do, what is it you are currently curious about? What do you want to understand better? What do you want to improve in what you do? And that's one post-it note. And the second post-it note I'm going to ask you to fill in is, how are you going to start to do that? I hope having that discussion with the people around you has been useful and has helped you to think a little bit more about what it is you're doing and what you could go away and do. Just a couple of things that I've randomly picked up on. We're talking about positive relationships and building positive relationships. How do we work when there's somebody in the room who doesn't want the relationships to be positive? And we know that. We know that from trauma-informed practice. We know that if somebody's experience is that people don't listen to them or that they don't have those good relationships in their life, they might come into a room and they might try and mess that up. Now, I'm not going to try and answer that question, but that's a really great question. Keep it there for yourself. So when that happens, you don't just go, that person. You go, how? What can I do? What can make this better? Just another one I picked up is, how do we give something in our sessions that stays with the young person? So how do we give them something, or how do we give them the space to develop and grow something that when they walk away and they're in that situation when they need to make a different choice, they can clue back on and there's something to hold on to? Great question. How do we do that? I don't want to answer it. And then the really big one, so those are the kind of the practice ones in a way, but the really big one that's up there is, how do we work to gain a social shift so that the adult ear is important? And again, that's the work we have to do. Thank you very much. I don't know if I'm handing over to Marie. I'm handing over to Marie. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Adam. And I'm sure we'll all go away thinking about evidence-rich practice. Thanks, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit now about the other part of the programme, which Jenny mentioned earlier, Way Into Work, one of the first project that we started running, actually, with Southwark YOS, which, as Jenny said, is geared around helping people feel work-ready, young people feel work-ready, and thinking about when we first went into that project and we thought, okay, interview skills, we can do that. And we were really struck by how the young people we met were not able to speak about themselves in a positive way at all. They weren't able to recall anything they were good at, often weren't able to suggest what they'd like to do in future, sometimes because they just had no idea, sometimes because the reality was they were in court next week and they didn't know if they would be in prison or able to make those decisions. So the project has changed and evolved so many times over the last years, but to kind of meet young people where they're at, and depending on the group, the cohort in the room, we've always had to be flexible. And sometimes those young people might be at college and have a plan and know what they want to do next. And sometimes those young people haven't been engaged in education for a very long time and are really far away from making any kind of decision. So, rather than talk about work on day one, we go in with a soft approach, and we've developed a character called Dwayne, who we think is in a similar situation to a lot of the young people in the room, and Dwayne is the starting point for the conversation before we get into the more focused work, readiness, preparation type stuff. So the actors, Rashini and Peter and Lauren and Deshay, I'm just going to show you a couple of scenes. This is always something that we do with whoever is in the room. Sometimes it's 2 actors, sometimes it's 4, but it's a way of introducing a character that we can refer to throughout the duration of the project, so that things can be one step removed and a little bit safer than talking about yourself all the time. So this is your opportunity to meet Dwayne, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Dwayne's situation afterwards. Actors, are you ready?
Yes.
Audience, are you ready?
Yes. Dwayne, have you done the chores I asked you to do?
So, Dwayne, what's your interest?
Bro, all you gotta do is make 1-2 drop-offs. That's £500 in your pocket for 2 days max.
Mum,
Yeah?
did you give the job centre my number?
They called you.
Why did you slam me up? We've had this conversation. I'm not trying to sign on.
Come on, Dwayne. I asked you to do the chores around the house. Did you do them?
No.
You don't want to go to college no more? You're 18, yeah? You need to start figuring something out. Look, either you get a job or you sign on, yeah?
Okay.
Dwayne Carter?
Yep.
Nice to meet you. My name's Roel. So I understand this is your first time at the job centre. So I'm just going to run you through a couple of things, a couple of questions so I can put you in the right direction, yeah?
Yep.
So what are your interests?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, mate. What do you like doing? What do you want to get into? Like retail, construction, hospitality? You look like you could, serve a couple of people, huh?
Okay.
Alright, so what I need for you to do is log online, yeah? 35 hours just detailing you, your cert 35, mate. That's the minimum requirement that you're looking for a job, that you're seeking a job, yeah?
Okay, so when do I actually get my money?
It's going to take a couple of weeks to process couple weeks, yeah?
I want my money now.
Unfortunately, that's the way it goes, yeah? Anyway, nice to meet you, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks, yeah?
Thank you very much.
Hey yo, what you telling me? Are you good, yeah?
What you saying, man?
I'm good, man. Hey, listen, this Saturday, shutdown party and that.
Of course I'm coming. Yeah, of course I'm coming.
Hey, Chantal's gonna be there.
And that's
All the
why
man
I'm
are gonna
coming.
be there too.
You want to see Chantal?
Come on.
Let her know what I'm about, but I'll holler you later, yeah?
Don't know, you shout me, yeah?
Go.
Dwayne, come on, I've been calling you. Look, you've been signed on for 4 weeks now and you're not helping me with anything around the house. I've got the gas, the water, the light, and the internet to pay. Come on, man, you need to start pulling your weight.
Hello, Dwayne. It's Rob. I can't get through to you, and you've missed your last 2 appointments. Mate, I'm not joking. You missed another one, and, well, this is your final warning.
Hey yo, my bro. Hey, where you been, man? I heard you from you in a hot set, man. All the man was missing you as well. But shout me when you get this, yeah? In a bit.
Oh, I am so sorry I'm late. I was on the bus, there was loads of traffic.
What time do you call in?
I know, I apologise, but I'm here now. It won't happen again.
And unfortunately, you missed your last 2 appointments as well.
I know, but the things came up, and I just couldn't do
Yeah,
it.
the other thing that didn't come up is that I see that you haven't filled out the requirement.
Yeah, but I'm finding that a bit difficult. 35 hours to do, come on.
It's the minimum that you have to do, yeah. So, I'm sorry to say, I'm going to have to sanction you.
Sanction?
That's what's going to have to happen. You didn't meet the
You
requirements.
didn't give me any money yet. What do you mean sanction?
I can't give you any money if you didn't do what needed to be
Bro,
done.
I need the money, man. Don't do this to
Unfortunately,
me.
you're sanctioned.
Bro, come on.
Do you know what? You can reapply in 6
What
weeks.
this fucking prick?
So what's this I'm hearing?
I don't know, what are you hearing?
What am I hearing? Sandra's nephew's girlfriend said they saw you at the job centre acting a fool.
No.
Huh?
No, it wasn't like that. I arrived late, and then he sanctioned me, and I tried to explain
You
myself.
sanctioned you,
No,
Dwayne, come on, man.
Like
I've got all these bills piling up.
I know.
You know what? That's not going to pay anything, Dwayne. Do you know what? I'm tired of your foolishness, yeah? You need to stop acting like a fool and man up.
Hey yo, my bro.
What you saying?
telling me?
I'm good, man.
You good, man?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Oh, you look stressed, man. What's up?
Money, innit?
Money?
A bit shallow.
What, so you're low on peas, yeah?
Mm.
Well, you know I can help you out, you know?
What do you mean you can help me out?
Well, you know what I can do, man. Listen, all you got to do is make a couple of drop-offs, yeah? Oh, that's £500 in your pocket. 2 days max, bro. You know you want this, innit? Come on, man.
I'm not sure,
You're
man.
gonna be dripping like me, yeah?
I don't know.
Alright, listen, yeah? I'm gonna give you a shout on Monday.
Alright,
we're
we'll think.
talking it.
Alright, I'll think about it.
Yeah?
I appreciate that,
In
man.
a bit, yeah?
Yeah, thanks.
Got my key in the dippo, ugly Betty in the pillow.
So we start our session with a little bit of story like that, and then we ask the the young people some questions to show where you come back.
Yes,
so we can see Dwayne. So some of the things we might ask, how's Dwayne feeling in the piece? What feelings might be going on for him inside? You can shout out. We don't mind that here. Pressure.
Overwhelmed.
Feeling overwhelmed.
Frustrated.
Feeling frustrated.
Unheard.
Feeling unheard. Feeling stressed.
Angry.
Feeling angry. It's a lot to deal with. There's a lot of feelings all at once. And what might he be thinking? Again, no one else can hear that. What's going on in his head? There was a thought bubble coming up here.
No one cares.
Selling drugs is the option.
No one cares. Selling drugs is the option. Sorry.
Nobody understands.
Nobody understands.
Doesn't have a choice.
Don't have a choice.
I'm not sure you're thinking that much when you're under that level of stress. So, like, the thinking doesn't work.
Don't know.
It gets a bit erratic.
Yeah, like it's like everything's muddled and you can't think properly and all this cognitive functions like rationality is just gone. You're just thinking of survival mode. What can I do to survive?
What does he want? What does Dwayne want? Money? It to stop.
Support.
Oh.
Security.
Security.
Respect.
Recognition. Some time.
Clarity. What does he need? Might be different to what he wants.
Somebody to just listen and not judge him or have a go at him.
I think someone might have said a hug or love. Someone a hug.
Probably needs that, yeah.
I was going to say he needs time as well.
Somebody on his side.
Someone on his side.
A purpose. A purpose.
Yeah.
A goal.
Great, so already you can see the kind of quality of conversation we might start to have with young people. And we build on women, we can talk about any of the characters, but we can continually refer back to Dwayne and ask our groups to offer advice to Dwayne. In fact, let's get some advice for Dwayne right now. I think you might need some. I know they probably all need some, but we're focusing on Dwayne. Any advice that you'd like to give him right now?
Find your purpose. Find what makes you happy and see if you can make money out of it.
Any other advice for someone in a situation like Dwayne is right now?
Ask your mum for a hug.
That's a bit more.
All you have to do is ask.
Any other advice for Dwayne?
Do what you need to do in order to get your life in order.
What is it?
Even if it's what he's up for.
Oh no, I didn't mean that bit. I meant that bit.
You're not an island. Always try and focus on that. I think that's what pushed me in that. There's always support. You just need to find the right support system.
Thank you. So once we've established the character of Dwayne in our way to work sessions, we have Dwayne looking for a job, we have Dwayne get a call at some point and he's got an interview and the group usually decide what it's for and it's Tesco or Currys or kind of a big employer, and then the group become the panel. So we ask them to think of the interview questions, we ask them to think of the skills that might be required, we ask them what they're going to be looking for, and then we usually give the actor playing Dwayne the brief to give the worst interview ever when they come back in so that they can feedback and reflect and give notes and try it again. And eventually we build the confidence with the group, build the relationship with the group through the story, and then we can start to turn Dwayne's situation into everyone's situation and have more first universal conversations and then more personalised ones about what people in the group want to do and how they will give interviews better than Dwayne did at first. So first of all they coach Dwayne and then they're coaching themselves.
And we always give them the option of like, would you hire Dwayne, especially in a bad interview, because if they wouldn't, why wouldn't you? That way you kind of give them that moment to take a pause and be like, oh right, make sure when I come in, I'm not doing anything that he do because I wouldn't take him on, that means they wouldn't take themselves on.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about that. So we'll have more chance to talk about it with questions at the end, but we'll be back to answer them. So thank you, actors. I'm going to welcome to the, I was going to say stage, but that sounds intimidating, doesn't it? To the lectern, Sophie Reed, who is one half of the duo that have carried out such extensive research and written a beautiful report on this programme. And I can't wait to hear what she's going to say. Can we give her a round of applause, please?
Thanks very much. I was thinking it's quite strange because it's a long time since I've given a presentation where I'm not in a sort of small box, so I have no idea what's going to happen to my legs. So my name's Sophie Reed, and along with my research partner Ellie, Mendez, we had the great joy of doing this research with London Bubble Theatre. So when we sat down with Marie and Adam towards the end of 2019, it was absolutely music to our ears, I think, to hear the way that they spoke about what they wanted to do through the evaluation. And you've heard Adam speak a lot about that earlier, and just really understanding that they wanted a learning experience. And it wasn't just about, we want you to come in and tell us some good things that we can say to other people, so they'll fund us. And obviously that's brilliant for me, because I don't want to do that either, because otherwise, what's the point of the work that I'm doing? This is kind of roughly what we did. So obviously there was rather a big moment during this period of time. So about 6 months into the work, the world blew up, and we were trying to kind of work in a way that meant that we could sort of surf the waves that COVID threw at us, in the same way that London Bubble Theatre were having to change their practice really considerably. And for the sort of evaluation where you might start, have some sort of measurement at the start and measurement at the end, then it would just blow that out of the water. Thankfully, we decided to go down a little bit of a different course, so we could be more flexible. So we started with an evidence review, and that's what you've got in the purple one. And here we were really trying to understand what evidence is already out there for this type of work, arts-based interventions in the criminal justice system. And it really felt that there was a gap in the evidence for work that's similar to the work that London Bubble Theatre do. And particularly in the context of a community setting. So there's quite a lot in incarcerated settings. But in community settings, for various reasons, including it being a bit more difficult to do the research, there wasn't so much. And then we worked with London Bubble staff and partners to try and think about some of the theory of why this works. So we think it's really important for an evaluation to start by asking some of the questions. So in general, and I think as has been said already today, the facilitators and the staff know what they're doing. They know whether something's working or not. But what we can do through the evaluation is bring people together and test it in a bit more of a kind of systematic way. So that theory work was really to set out, this is why we think it's working from the perspective of the people that have already been doing this work for so long. And then most of what we were doing was interview-based. So we were interviewing young people who'd been involved in the projects at various stages in each of the projects that took place in this period, and the practitioners leading the projects, or those who were supporting the young people elsewhere, so in the YOS, for example, and also training attendees, people that came to the training sessions. And then towards the end, we kind of capped it off with some focus groups to make sense of that with London Bubble Theatre staff. So I'm going to be talking today mostly about what we found in the research, but part of that is the what, so what impact is it having? But a lot of it that we wanted to focus on and that I want to speak about today is the how it works, because that's where you understand the kind of mechanisms for change and how you can improve and take sort of aspects of that into your own work. So these are the short-term impacts that London Bubble Theatre wanted to achieve through the Creating Justice programme. And we found evidence for all of these, but some more than others. And I'm not going to go through everything today, but I'm going to talk about 3 areas for which we sort of felt there was the most impact: confidence, communication, and well-being. And you're going to hear me say a couple of words quite a lot throughout this session, so I might just flag them up now, which is modelling and practising. And I think those are 2 really important mechanisms throughout, which I'll come back to later. So communication. So improving communication is both a sort of facilitator of the process and a desired outcome. I say it's a facilitator of it because it means that young people can participate fully. And as Jenny said earlier, a lot of the young people going through the programmes have speech, language and communication needs. So there's a need to work flexibly already with those young people. And so we saw that a lot of young people were reporting really feeling that they'd made improvements in their communication and getting enjoyment out of that, out of being able to articulate themselves and be understood. And that was supported by facilitators who allowed young people to practice getting their points across in a supported and patient environment, which they might not have elsewhere. And also the fact that this happened within a group. So the process of collaboration within a group helps young people to see the value of listening to others' ideas, because they could see how that made the final output better. And facilitators helped to support that by modelling turn-taking and encouraging everyone to participate. And in Way Into Work particularly, it gives young people the opportunity to learn and practice professional communication and understand how body language affects how they're perceived. And they're practicing that in a space that doesn't feel risky, like an actual job interview. Confidence and well-being. The young people that we spoke to said that over time they felt more confident about taking part in the sessions and speaking up. And that was due to the positive feedback that they received. They felt respected and heard by their facilitators and by their peers. And seeing their ideas and contributions form part of the film or play or whatever it ended up with made them feel further respected and heard. And it also helped them to acknowledge and feel good about the skills or talents they already had. So they spoke about a real sense of achievement from creating this film or play or doing well in the mock interview. And that sense of achievement made them feel better about themselves, which kind of comes onto this idea of well-being. They often commented how much they appreciated the positive reaction that they were getting to their contributions in the sessions, but also in the final performance. And the facilitators really shower praise on the young people as part of this process. And in addition to that, some young people, so this last quote, also spoke about the sessions providing them with a welcome respite from their normal life, sometimes rare opportunity to relax, laugh and have fun. And that sense of enjoyment was actually really, we found to be really integral to the process, because it was only through having a laugh and having some enjoyment that they then engaged with the sessions. And I'll move now on to sort of some of the medium to long-term impacts that we were theorising. So although we weren't tracking young people over really long periods of time, we did see evidence of some of these starting to emerge. And again, I'm not going to speak about all of them, but just a couple. So readiness. We talked about readiness as a sort of sense of being understanding, having aspirations and feeling ready to kind of take up opportunities if they presented themselves. And we did find evidence that the projects helped to raise young people's aspirations and understanding the options available to them, especially because they were able to talk openly with others about their interests and hear ideas from others in the group that could inspire them. Specifically for job interviews, they'd had the opportunity to practice, and therefore they felt more ready to take part in real job interviews and equipped with some practical strategies for doing that. Before we started the fieldwork, based on existing evidence from the literature, we theorised that young people's immediate enjoyment of the projects would lead to greater engagement, what I was saying before, which would lead to positive outcomes like increased confidence, well-being, and so on. And as a result of experiencing those positive outcomes, we theorise that young people would be more likely to engage with other projects and opportunities in the future, if you follow the chain of logic. And we did see that in the interviews that we did with young people. They spoke about being more prepared to try things which they wouldn't have done before. They said that taking part in the sessions helped them realise that something good could come out of doing something different. And so they started to see the value in trying new things and taking advantage of opportunities. And also in speaking to officers at the YOS, they reported that the Creating Justice programme can act as a springboard for them to suggest other projects to young people that they work with. And that's partly because they can sort of rely on young people having a positive experience in these projects, which can make them more open to taking part in other things that the officers might want to suggest. But also because the projects can highlight and bring out interests that young people have, which officers can then refer them on to other projects to pursue that interest, although of course that depends what is available. On the last of these kind of medium to long-term outcomes was self-identity development and improved problem solving. Young people spoke about how their involvement in London Bubble projects helped them recognise their own strengths and capabilities and made them feel more able to articulate that to others in terms of what they had to offer. And it's also offering young people a unique, safe space to present a more playful and perhaps light-hearted side of their personality, whereas in a lot of other spaces they might be experiencing pressure to present a tougher image. So young people were talking about being a chance to laugh and have fun. And the young people also spoke about how their engagement in the sessions made them feel more confident and equipped to make better decisions. That increased those young people's self-belief that they could improve and make changes in their own life, just like some of the characters in the storylines that they developed. They were able to reflect on their past mistakes, understand why they might have reacted in certain ways, and feel confident they wouldn't repeat those in the future. As I said, what we were really interested in doing in this evaluation was not just saying what had happened, but how it had happened. And these ways of working were ways of working that the London Bubble Theatre staff identified right from the beginning as important. And these are kind of peppered throughout the report as some of the mechanisms that we think create the change. So there's 11 here. You'll be glad to know I'm not going to go through them all, but I'm going to delve into 5 of them to give you a sense of what we found. So characters and creative methods are some of the most kind of unique aspects of these projects. And we've already seen the trainers, we've seen Dwayne. It creates this kind of engagement with young people, and the fact that young people remembered these activities in quite some detail later when we were speaking to them, I think reinforces that fact. So you can see the young person is almost replaying the exercise that we did earlier with the shoes. And whilst the stories and characters are relatable to young people, they also allow for some creative distance, whereby the young people can relate the character's story to their own experiences without actually having to directly talk about personal experience they might not feel comfortable sharing, which could otherwise be quite a significant barrier. So they can talk about things they care about, but sort of through the means of a fictional character. And also, a lot of these projects are happening within the youth offending service, and having this completely different atmosphere created can help to combat negative associations that young people might have with that space, because it's taking part in the YOS space and also often involving adults in that space who are being silly and playful and quite different from other interactions that it might have with adults. group work, we found through the research that it created a sense of belonging for the young people involved for that period of time. They spoke about, some young people spoke about this being the first time they'd found themselves in a group environment where everyone was being respectful and supportive of one another. And that felt very different from other settings that they might have been in the past, whether at school or among peers. And they also enjoyed being able to take part in those group sessions, but not necessarily having to talk all the time. So they were learning that being kind of an active participant and engaging could actually involve just listening and learning from others. And facilitators were really spending time ensuring that all members of the group were given the time and space to contribute. And over time, sometimes the groups actually took on a sort of self-regulating character. The young people themselves were starting to do that themselves. The young people also spoke about enjoying listening to other people's ideas and experiences. Unshockable and non-judgmental. London Mumble Theatre create accepting and safe spaces where young people don't feel judged or labelled. So the labels are left at the door. No one's labelled as an offender or a troublemaker, and everyone is treated as an equal participant. And this creates a sort of space where young people can talk about sensitive topics with trusted adults. So facilitators stress the need to appear unshockable in order to allow difficult conversations with young people to take place, whether that's about relationships, sex, drugs, abuse, or mental health. Rather than shutting down those conversations or judging young people for what they say, the facilitators address those comments head on and invite them to discuss it more, whilst also diverting the group away from using offensive language, for example. And this approach allows the group to actually discuss and delve deeper into important issues and gives facilitators the opportunity to challenge young people respectfully and offer alternative perspectives. And they started to find sometimes that the young people would provide those external perspectives as well. And finally, youth-led and person-centred. The young people really spoke about how much they appreciated being given the time and space to input in their own way. We've heard at the beginning, sort of some people might come in to the space saying, well, I'm not going to act. And that was okay. So some people could take part in various different ways, which didn't make them feel too pressured. And this is really the skill of the facilitators, to find a way to make each young person feel comfortable engaging and contributing in the sessions. Facilitators also spoke about the importance of showing unconditional positive regard for each young person, whether that's through asking questions, referring to comments a young person has previously made at an earlier session. The intention is always to let young people know that they matter. And they also get to choose what stories to tell. Putting a young person's voice at the centre of everything is key to how the sessions are run. So the young people are creators, directors, writers in each project, and actors. Young people appreciated being able to decide what topics to discuss. So, for example, one young person told us that he expected the sessions to focus on knife crime and gangs because he felt as if young people were always given those labels. He appreciated finding out that that was not the case, and they could develop the story and characters however they wanted. And to come to an end, what I wanted to say was that in the report, we've summarised some of the kind of key enablers and barriers to this work, but I wanted to focus here on some of the opportunities that we identified for having even more impact. And I only touched on a few, but there's more in the full report. And some of these have been, I should say, sort of have been tried in various different ways, and I think it's a continuous process of kind of changing things, and no project is ever delivered in exactly the same way twice. But here are some of the things that we found. The number of sessions, so this is something that's changed loads throughout the projects, but what we heard and what's reflected in the quote here was that actually extending the number of sessions, if there was funding for that, would enable a sort of further exploration of some of the work that we've already spoken about. It would allow young people to take part, for example, in a couple of different mock interviews for Way Into Work, or further develop, refine and input into the film or play. We found that seeing this work in action really helps people to understand it. And so having every YOS officer attend at least one session from both Creative Voices and Way Into Work could really help with seeing this and sort of increasing referrals from all officers. Referrals tended to come from the same small group of officers every time. We talked before about opportunities for the adult ear, as Adam put it. I think inviting a wide range of stakeholders from the borough to attend the final performances could be a really good way of doing that. And finally, this idea of pathways. So London Bubble Theatre are with young people for a short amount of time. There is only so much that can happen in that space of time. But what there can be done is to have pathways that allow for the real impact of these projects, the kind of catalysing impact of these projects, to then flow forward into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's something that through their time together, London Bubble Theatre and Southwark have already really started to put more and more focus on. But there's more that can be done, and in different areas as well. And finally, from a sort of evaluation perspective, we didn't track young people over a long period of time, and I think there's more to life than data and statistics. But there is something about sharing and recording the data that we do have. So, for example, during the course of this evaluation, there was sort of anecdotal evidence that there are many examples of young people who'd gone on directly to employment, but that's not necessarily captured or fed back systematically or recorded. And these small groups, when brought together, create this bigger kind of group of young people that can be some more information can be found out about where they go on and how they engage with future opportunities. And also within London Bubble Theatre, there are lots of different projects running and ways to bring people through into the other projects that London Bubble Theatre run as well, can help create those pathways. And that is it from me, but I think we're going to have some questions.